All right, let's get right into it. Your teams are constantly being pushed to ship faster, but you can't afford to let quality slip. So today, we're going to cut through all the hype and show you, with actual hard data, how AI-driven, test-driven development is the key to solving that very dilemma, and what it really means for your competitive edge. Here's our game plan. First, we'll frame that core developer dilemma. Then, we'll look at the verifiable productivity gains AI brings to the table. After that, we'll see the tools in action, talk about the risks, and wrap up with a concrete playbook you can actually use. This is the question, right? It's the fundamental tension every single engineering leader is dealing with. The business wants more features faster, but you know the cost of bad quality, bugs, outages, your reputation. It always feels like you have to choose one or the other. But what if it isn't a choice anymore? What if you could actually do both? Well, the modern answer is that you can, and frankly, you have to. And the key is pairing that classic discipline of test-driven development with the insane leverage you get from generative AI. Think of it this way. One provides the guardrails, and the other provides the rocket fuel. So let's dive into this first part. You might be thinking, hey, if AI can generate code in 2 seconds, do we really need a slow, methodical process like TDD anymore? And the answer is a resounding yes. In fact, it's more critical than ever. TDD gives you the verifiable, executable proof that the code the AI spits out is not just fast, but correct. It's your quality control. Okay, so let's get to the evidence. And I'm not talking about feel-good anecdotes. These are real, verifiable metrics from major studies, and they show a productivity revolution is already happening. This is the data you can build a solid business case on. The first number you need to know is 55%. In controlled studies, GitHub found that developers using an AI assistant like Copilot finished their tasks more than twice as fast. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. That's not a small, incremental improvement. That is a massive step change in how fast your teams can move. Now, check out this next figure. It comes from Goldman Sachs, and it's kind of staggering. We all know legacy code can be a huge blocker. Well, using a specialized AI, Goldman slashed the time it took to write unit tests for their existing Java code by more than 90%. A project that would have been months of technical debt, gone, almost overnight. And you know, it's not just about raw speed. It's about reducing the cognitive load on your developers. 73% of them say that AI helps them stay in the flow. It gets rid of all that mental friction from switching context or looking up boilerplate syntax. That means your most expensive talent is focused on solving real business problems, not fighting with their tools. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The big fear, right, is that if you go faster, quality takes a nosedive. But the data shows the exact opposite. Developers using AI were 56% more likely to write code that passed all the unit tests on the very first try. So, speed and quality, they're not a trade-off anymore. So how does this all actually work on the ground? Let's break down the different kinds of AI agents and where they fit in, because it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all situation. You use different tools for different jobs. You basically got two main flavors emerging. On one hand, you have the in-your editor assistant like GitHub Copilot. Think of it as a super fast pair programmer helping with each little step. Then on the other hand, you have these more autonomous agents. You can literally just hand them a failing test and say, fix this, and they'll just keep trying different solutions until the test passes. It's a totally different way of working. And here's a perfect example of a specialized tool. Goldman Sachs had this huge old Java codebase with almost no tests. An autonomous AI tool went in, generated thousands of tests, and doubled their test coverage from 36 to 72%, literally overnight. That's what unlocked their ability to finally start modernizing that code safely. And this isn't just about unit tests. In the world of microservices, API contract testing is a brutal challenge. Well, tools are now emerging that can generate those tests directly from your API specs. The early results show things like a 98% reduction in the time it takes to create the tests, saving teams something like 20 hours every single regression cycle. Okay, let's be real. This isn't magic, and it's not a silver bullet. Adopting any powerful new technology means you have to be smart and proactive about managing the risks. So let's talk about the concerns that you absolutely should be thinking about. The concerns really fall into 4 buckets. First, the big one, AI hallucinations, code that looks perfectly fine but is subtly, dangerously wrong. Second, flaky tests that are brittle or fail for no good reason. Third, a huge one, IP and privacy. You can't just be sending your secret sauce out to some external model. And finally, the long-term risk of over-reliance, where your team's core skills might start to fade. But here's the critical point. Every single one of these risks is manageable. You just need the right guardrails. For hallucinations and flaky tests, you enforce TDD and code reviews. The AI has to prove its work, and a human has to sign off. For IP and privacy, you use the same security scanning you already have in your pipeline, and you choose enterprise-grade tools. And to prevent over-reliance, the human is always in the loop. You start small on less critical stuff, and you build trust over time. So let's translate all of this into a concrete plan. This is your playbook for a low-risk, practical way to get started and actually demonstrate a real return on investment. A simple 4-step pilot is the best way to do this. First, pick a good candidate project. Don't try to boil the ocean. Second, get your baseline. You can't improve what you don't measure, right? So know your current test coverage and defect rates. Third, run the pilot and track everything. Finally, you report back with a data-driven case for ROI that will get you the buy-in you need to scale this across the organization. Look, if you take just one thing away from this briefing, let it be this. AI does not replace good engineering discipline. It's an accelerant. It takes the proven, solid principles of TDD and just supercharges them. It turns a best practice into a genuine, decisive competitive advantage. And for anyone who wants to go deeper, all the key sources we've talked about are right here. You've got the foundational research from places like GitHub and McKinsey, plus those real-world case studies from DiffBlue, PactFlow, and ZoomInfo. We'll end with this final thought. The question really isn't if AI is going to be part of your team anymore. The question is how. And when you pair it strategically with your best people, and you ground it in solid engineering discipline, AI is absolutely poised to become your organization's ultimate performance multiplier. Thank you.